Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Female Perspectives on the Democratic Transitions in Europe. In this podcast series, we focus on the 70s, 80s and 90s, and together with colleagues from Bulgaria, Slovenia, Italy, Spain and Croatia, we are talking to some of the key figures of that time. What we are specifically interested in is the role of women in the democratic transitions in Europe, their perspectives on the historical events and their aftermath today. I am Diana Todorova from the Croatian civil society organization Documenta, and in this episode I have the pleasure of talking to Kallina Ivanova and Ana Ivanova from Bulgaria. They have the same surname and they're both artists. They're not sisters, but they both describe themselves as children of the transition, a term frequently used in Bulgaria. Kallina and Ana consider themselves children of the transition, even though they were born a decade after Bulgaria started its transition from socialism to democracy in 1989. In their first exhibition, Kallina and Ana present to the public two miniatures they made. One is a miniature of a residential panel building called Block 1989, and the other one is a miniature of an apartment called Apartment 2007. What do these names mean? Well, we are about to find out together. Kallina and Ana are taking me through their exhibition in Sofia as we discuss the democratic changes in Bulgaria reflected in their work. We're here today to see two things. We are looking at Block 89 and Apartment 2007. What is Block 89?
Block 89 is a collective image of a typical panel block from Eastern Europe, Bulgaria specifically, but it's like a universal kind of a look for this area. And we have aimed to create a very relatable image with everything that is included in the miniature, with the little details that mark people and their mark on the place that they live in. It's an architectural representation, but it's very much about the life that people live there and how it's not so objective and devoid of life as people who don't live in these places experience it sometimes.
We were born around 10 years after 89, and we are offering our point of view as the children of the transitional period. The block itself is called Block 1989 because we wanted to suggest that pivotal year when that the whole transition started, and so that's why our next project, the apartment, is called Apartment 2007 because it marks another year of transition. It's controversial to say that it's like the end of transition. It's the year that Bulgaria entered the European Union. We wanted to express not only with the apartment like really enter people's homes and in the way people live, like Bulgarian culture, but we also wanted to take a look at how Bulgarian culture looks the year we enter the European Union, because you can't avoid all the traces of the past.
In these miniatures, the marks of socialism stand out. However, many of the items bear witness to the transition to democracy and the introduction of Western culture in Bulgaria. Block 1989 is the result of an assignment that Kallina and Ana had while studying in the UK. Nothing in England looked like Block 1989, and this sparked the girls' enthusiasm for the project. The miniature provoked Kallina and Ana with new questions about the Bulgarian transition to democracy and the gap between Block 1989 and what was surrounding them in England. So it was only natural to continue exploring the topic. The National Culture Fund of Bulgaria also recognized the importance to spark a new conversation on the transitional period and financed the creation of Apartment 2007.
For us, the children of transition, we grew up in this period and we have no explanation for everything that's around us. We are just expected to live with it and not ask too many questions. Or if we ask any questions, we get really polar answers, depending who's answering.
Block 1989 and Apartment 2007 attract many visitors to the exhibition in Sofia. It is easy to see why many people come to see the miniatures and take numerous photos. Everyone recognizes something from their life in Block 89 and Apartment 2007, and the similarities are striking. The miniatures are so precise that you can easily recognize the old cupboard in the kitchen, your favorite snack, and even your neighbor. Besides the miniatures, Kallina and Anna have developed various fictional characters that represent the residents of the block and the apartment. If you want to see the miniatures, simply click on the link in the description of this episode and listen along. So you haven't lived through that time, but basically you have lived in homes that bear the traces of that time. Is there something from your childhood in these miniatures?
Many things you will see, especially in the apartment, but not only in the panel block as well. We have based on things from our memories, especially our character Anne-Marie, which is a sixth grader. Even though she's technically a few years older than us, she is roughly based on us as kids. Her interests, her sense of style, her overall sense of confusion. And one thing about her is that she is growing up in her really old room, heavy on Soviet furniture, let's say. But she is growing up with technology and Western culture. So the movies she's watching and the music she's listening to, everything is coming from the other part of the world. It's what excites her and her peers, and she is not realizing it, but is slowly growing up really distant from her, the place she's living in. She's always dreaming of a better place somewhere else. And this is the reality of the children of transitional period. Other elements of the apartment are also loosely based on places we've lived. For example, I can name one thing: the door of her room is the same I had in my room where I lived with my parents. And I kind of really hated it because it has that window which really stops you from having any privacy whatsoever. It's a really fun detail, and I'm guessing Anna also has those, but also, for example, the pencil holder that is a notebook from those Greek treats, chocolate treats. People never throw away the boxes because they're always reused. I remember that me and my brother definitely had one or two pencil holders from that kind of box. So there are a lot of Easter eggs inside the apartment.
this. So I have really nice memories from these places, and I have particularly focused my energy on the living room unit, where it has the little details and the place with the trees for guests and alcohol, and these things are very vivid in my memory as a very iconic thing for these apartments. And I remember in my grandmother's house this area, the bar with the alcohol and the treats. I remember me and my brother opening it and stealing one candy at a time so that no one notices. But then when guests come over and my grandma takes out the chocolates, there's nothing in there and she gets really angry. But yeah, it was things like that. That's why this is just for the guests. And everything in the apartment really is based on our experiences that we have found to be universal for everyone.
And there are also the glasses behind the glass show. Yeah.
That are never used.
They're never used and they're only for guests and for, I don't know.
That's why we use them every day now to heal the trauma of never using nice things.
Another thing that's really relatable is the way everything is really packed. You can see in the big cupboard in the living room, one of the doors is a bit crooked, and you can see little plastic bags sticking out from it, and you can assume that this is the cupboard where people keep all the plastic bags. Every family has those, like the bag full of bags. You can see a stack of old newspapers that could be like 10 years old, but are never thrown away as well. It's ambiguous, it's unknown what they would be used for, but that's one trait you can see throughout the whole apartment, that nothing is thrown away. The new Paris. Paris-inspired painting above the piano is a replacement for a known painting of horses that is now above the wardrobe in the bedroom. The owner of the house doesn't like this old painting, but will never throw it away. And you can see that, it's a pattern throughout the whole apartment, and I think many people, even if their apartment doesn't look exactly like this, has this feature. You could argue it's a feature of some kind of anxiety that a time will come when you won't have those things, so you can't throw anything away. It's something inherited from your parents. They did this because they lived in some kind of poverty, and the people before them as well. And even though us, the people of the present, will never run out of plastic bags, even if we wanted to. We'll still collect them because our parents did and their parents did and stuff like that.
Kallina and Anna have created stories about the residents of Block 1989 and Apartment 2007. These are fictional characters, or collective images that, in a way, represent the Bulgarian transition from socialism to democracy. So we have, apart from Anna Marie, in that flat we have Tanya, if I'm not mistaken, and we have Kolyo, and they all have the same surname. So is this one family, or what is going on there?
With Voceviu, we have tried to present a very average-looking family with one child. It was since the apartment is taken from the block, it's one of those apartments. So we chose the characters with a child so that we can represent a more thorough look on different age groups. So they're a family. They're both teachers, and their daughter is in the 6th grade. Yeah, we have tried to make them as traditional as possible in their relationships and in the people they represent. Kolu is a very typical Balkan dad, as we know them, a very Balkan style person, and Tanya is more fond of European culture and more classic things as she sees them. And Anne-Marie is the interesting mix of both.
She has nothing in common with them. I think like the gap between her and her parents is really huge. Something that's typical for the period. Her parents couldn't relate to anything that she's interested in, and vice versa. I think that's linked to mainly technology entering the world that time.
It's a very specific age to be at and to live in as a child, because the difference between you and your parents is so stark, since they have lived in a very, very different time and you are born in this new world that they cannot really comprehend, and they're still carrying the burden of the totalitarian regime. So it's a very big gap in the way we view things and with our parents, and it's difficult to relate and to have that for both parties to understand their experience. So it's interesting to represent this particular family. With Anne-Marie, we have really focused on her character in the development because we can relate to her most. Even the relationship with her parents is a representation of the transition itself. Because if we look at Kolu and Tanya, Kolu symbolizes more so the past, or this very stubborn, in touch with reality, or I don't know how to put it.
Vitality, you call it Bulgarian vitality.
Yeah, Bulgarian vitality, but yes. Some sort of a stubbornness and set in stone that things are going to be this way. And Tanya is more connected with the West, more into new things. So I'm saying that she's a combination of both, even though she has nothing to do with them, because they themselves are a representation of the transition and the past. So she's somewhat in between both.
Now the exhibition has been opened for a week. What were the reactions at the opening? What are the reactions of your friends, of your parents, of your grandparents?
The reactions are really mixed. Overly positive, I can say, because they were really different reactions, because people from different ages got to see the project, which was really interesting for us to hear the feedback, as mostly we've been showing our project through social media, through Instagram, and people our age knew about it, and we knew their opinions before the exhibition started, but older people, people that have been living their adult life before the years that the block and apartment are set, they were really, I don't know, I think I can say confused. For them, it's something they want to run away from. They see something, something bad, something that needs to constantly be improved. And if you're a person in your 50s, for example, and you hear about this project, but you don't really read everything around it, you will stay with this feeling of this is really unnecessary to be shown, because it's not something glamorous. Why would you show it in a gallery? Things like that should stay pushed away, and this is exactly actually why we started this project, and why what has been driving it this whole time, like really challenging this view: what can be shown in galleries, what counts as art, and what is culture, what is Bulgarian culture specifically here, because you could lie to the public that Bulgarian culture is our really romanticized version of it, the one with really beautiful roses and old folk songs and myths and legends, which is a big part of our culture. But what about the way people live right now, the music they're listening to, the food they're eating right now? It's also part of the culture. Culture is not our highest, purest artifacts. It's everything, like what people do every day. We think that it should be shown, because if it's not shown, like every aspect of your culture, if you don't see it represented there anywhere, you start thinking that it should be something to be ashamed about. And when you're ashamed about a part of yourself, if you're ashamed of the reality of your culture, you won't be able to change and grow. Yeah.
Kallina and Anna insist on their right to talk about that period of time that they have not experienced personally, but that has shaped their childhood and, in a way, also their life. They say that the miniatures are at the same time the final result of their work and the starting point of a bigger discussion.
I think firstly I was surprised how strong the reactions were. Like, I know that people liked it and thought it was cute out of the reactions we got online, but seeing in person the look on their faces and how they lit up and how happy it made them to see these things, and people were talking with people they didn't know. They were like, look at this, and they were so happy, they were smiling. Some people cried.
Really?
Yeah, reading
Why?
part of things. So they were like emotional about it. So this was really surprising to me. So it was a really important experience for me to see how it affected people positively. And as Kallina mentioned, like online we had on Facebook particularly, like we had more like feedback from people from older generations, and I think that part of the reason why they had not a negative reaction but a confused reaction more so is because we haven't lived in socialism, we haven't lived in that time, and they were a bit...
We don't have the right.
We don't have the right to show it or to talk about it because we don't know, and it's like they perceive it as if we romanticize it or something, while we're presenting a part of history that is currently quite accurate for today. You can still see these apartments, you can still see these blocks, and we are the whole time we have been talking about what we have seen, what we have lived in. So people mistakenly place it farther in the past than it actually is. So
Do you consider yourselves children of the transition?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are. The topic is really loaded and we relate to it a lot, even though our character, as I said, she is supposed to be born in 1996 and we are born a few years later. The way we grow up with that kind of duality, the way our reality looks and our interests, the culture surrounding us, it relates to us as well. So, and I think the children of the transition are just now getting their voices heard because they grew a bit.
regardless of how people feel about it, the traces of socialism mark more than just the homes of Bulgarians, even today. And Anna and Kallina are not willing to just sweep the past under the mini carpet. Block 1989 and Apartment 2007 have become hits on social media and accommodate a new dialogue on the past, led by the children of the transition. And what do you think about the miniatures? Click the link in the description of this episode to see them. Thank you for listening. This podcast is produced in the scope of the project Female Perspectives on the Democratic Transitions in the 70s, 80s and 90s. The project is co-financed by the European Union. Views and opinions expressed are, however, those of the authors only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union or EACEA. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them.